I've only ever wanted to perform, which is weird to think about considering for the first 12 years of my life, I was so riddled with social anxiety, I could not hold a conversation with anyone except my mother. Seriously, I couldn't even talk to my therapist. But I loved performing. At every family gathering and for every babysitter I ever had, I would sing. I wouldn't talk, but I would sing. I didn't understand it then, but music was always my voice. It was my form of expression and communication. When I was 11, my anxiety was at its worst, and I was beginning to show signs of what would later be diagnosed as depression. I had started to feel a sadness and emptiness that I had never felt before. I would come home from school, turn off the lights in my room, and lie in bed until I had to get up the next day and do it again. Needless to say, it was not a fun time. But throughout all of those days I spent in my bedroom, I started to grow more curious about the guitar that had been sitting by my closet since my 10th birthday. So I decided to pick it up and learn. Very quickly and effortlessly, almost like it was out of my control, I started writing songs on this $100 silver glitter-covered guitar from Amazon. At first, the songs were naive and innocent stories about made-up romances I had never experienced and girls at school that had left me out at recess. Then over time, they started to become more honest and vulnerable. On March 9th, 2016, I wrote a song called Contagious. This song put into words what I had been struggling with mentally for so long. Like most of my best songs, it was something I needed to write. It had further proven what had been clear all along. Music was the only way I could put my thoughts into words. Eyes on the road, keep your cool. No one's gotta know. No one's gotta know. Taking it slow. Pretty intense for an 11-year-old, I know. My parents now point to the moment they heard that song for the first time as the moment they knew I could make something out of this passion I had for music. Maybe it could be more than just a hobby. So I kept writing. My dad took me to open mic nights at bars that I shouldn't have been allowed into. I signed up for every talent show my school held. I went to songwriting programs at Berklee College of Music, the Country Music Hall of Fame, and the Grammy Museum. I did the work to get better at something that I loved to do and wanted to keep doing. If I could turn this thing that I was so passionate about into a career, that's what I was going to do. Last year, after I graduated high school, I decided to postpone going to college and instead moved to Los Angeles to pursue music full-time. It definitely wasn't the traditional approach, but I was fortunate enough to be in a position where I could take that risk. To me, taking risks in your career is at the core of what Square One is all about. To quote one of my favorite authors, Elizabeth Gilbert, "What do you love doing so much that the words failure and success essentially become irrelevant?" When you're pursuing your passion as a career, it's inevitable that you'll face disappointment and setbacks. At the beginning of 2021, when I was 16, I was signed by a management company. Like any 16-year-old with a dream of becoming a successful musician, this was a huge deal for me. I felt incredibly optimistic about where my career was headed, and I was beyond thrilled that there were people out there who believed in my music and wanted to work with me. For a moment, it really felt like everything was coming together. But at the end of 2021, I was dropped by that management company. I was devastated. I started to question my talent and my worth. I replayed every conversation we had in my head to see what it was that I did wrong, what I did that made them want to give up on me. And worst of all, it felt like a huge step back. In an instant, beyond my control, I was back at the starting line. I could have easily given up. I could have surrendered to the challenge I was facing. I could have packed my bags and moved back home. But I didn't. Instead, I thought about the feeling I get when I'm writing a song I love. I thought about being on a stage and performing my music to a crowd full of people. I thought about the 11-year-old girl that was writing songs in her bedroom on her glitter-covered guitar from Amazon. So I became my own manager. I had to take on jobs I'm not qualified for. I had to be the sole advocate for myself. I had to navigate a male-dominated industry on my own, and as a young woman, that can be incredibly difficult and frustrating. But perseverance is essential in succeeding in the career paths we choose. In my opinion, it's another core element of Square One. Without perseverance, I would not have made it this far in the music industry, and I'm still at the beginning of my career. This past year, I've learned how important it is to surround yourself with the right people. People who encourage you to persevere when it feels impossible to. People who believe in you when you don't even believe in yourself. My family has always been my support system, whether it was my dad taking me to open mics or my mom being the first person I would play every new song to. Having people like that in our lives who have our backs no matter what lifts us up in times of self-doubt and uncertainty. biggest fan. I had a really great conversation with my brother recently, who's also pursuing his passion for music as a career. Most of the singing and performing I did as a kid, I did with him. We were talking about music and our upbringing, and he said something that really stuck with me. He said, we weren't told to write songs when we were 11. We weren't taught how to make music. We just did it because there was something inside of us that needed to. I was lucky to have found my passion at a very young age. I took the instinct I had as a kid to express myself through music, and I trusted it. No one was telling me I had to turn it into a career, but if that was possible, I was going to try. We have to take chances on ourselves. We have to nurture and explore our passions. We have to do things we love simply because we love to do them. Whether it's your hobby or your career, it is so important to incorporate a passion of yours into your life in any capacity. Be courageous with the things that inspire and excite you. Let your passion lead you. Thank you.